Hello, everybody. Welcome to our podcast this week. We have the pleasure of having Moreah with us again. And Moreah and I are going to be doing a 5-part series on A Course of Miracles. We're so happy to have you with us, Moreah. Thank you for joining us again. So like I said to you before, listeners, we are going on this journey of a 5-part series on different topics in the Course of Miracles. We are so grateful to Moreah that she said yes to that, because I asked her about it and she graciously said yes. So today our topic is going to be about ideas versus form, oneness versus separation, and God as an idea, and what the Course of Miracles has to say about that. So without further ado, everybody, welcome to Moreah.
Well, thanks for having me. As you know, Deb, talking about A Course in Miracles is one of my favorite things to do because it has had such a profound impact in my life. And for many years, when I had students and clients, I would speak to the teachings of the Course in Miracles and would, strongly recommend people would embark upon the journey. And although the Course does say it is a required course, and all of us, each person at some point will learn its teachings. It may not be specifically through this title, but we will all learn the teachings that it offers us, and that we are ready when we are ready, and everything in our lives kind of prepares us towards getting ready to do its teachings. So I was reading this morning in my morning practice. I went right back to the beginning and in the Course in Miracles, and it's what it says. And it says, nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. And herein lies the peace of God. And it speaks to, if we get that, if we let those ideas sink in, that's it. We're done. We don't need to do the Course, because now we've recognized that there's nothing to be afraid of, that we are as God created us. We are spirit. And although we have a body, the body is meant to be used as a learning tool and not as an identity. And I'm just going to read a little bit about this, and I'll go slowly because they're large ideas.
Yes.
This is how A Course in Miracles begins. It makes a fundamental distinction between the real and the unreal, between knowledge and perception. Knowledge is truth under one law, the law of love or God. Truth is unalterable, eternal, and unambiguous. It can be unrecognized, but it cannot be changed. And so what is this saying to us? It's speaking to us at different levels, but most of what it's telling us is that God as spirit or love. Some people like to think of God as love, and love not as an emotion, but because we create different bonds with different people, which elicits different emotions, but emotions comes from our thinking. And so yes, love shouldn't be thought of as an emotion, but rather as a state of being. And what the Course in Miracles tells us is that we are love. We were expanded from God. God cloned or made more of itself. And the collective of all of our humanity is called, in the Course in Miracles terms, the sonship. So it makes a lot of reference for us to the awareness that we are mind. And that's what I'm not saying, talking about the brain and the body, because the brain is where we experience thinking.
The mind, yeah.
And so from the Course in Miracles perspective, only that which comes from love or light, because our minds are the light of God, is what's real. And then we obviously come into the dilemma of what's going on in the physical world, and we look around saying, well, the world doesn't seem to be in a very good place right now. And that is because there's so much identification to the body.
That makes total sense. When you were talking about love and not as an emotion, I think that in my personal life has been something that I've had to work on and learn, and still learning about, because when you are younger and you say that you love someone, it's mostly because of either, like, if it's your parents, they're providing safety and security for you, they're giving you something that you need. Or if it's romantic, when you get older, it's like that you like how that person makes you feel, so you say that you love that person. But what has actually happened in life, and as we see it, when certain people that you think you loved acts in a way that now hurts you or displeases you, then all of a sudden you don't love that person. And even when I was younger, I could never wrap my head around that, because it's like, how can you love the person one time and then a year or two later you say don't love the person? And it's really because it's not love. And the other thing that I discovered is that my ability to love people only really came about when I was able to love myself. So we don't know that when we first start out thinking that we love people. So when you were saying love is not an emotion, it's your very existence. But the experience that you have with thinking what love is kind of takes you in the wrong direction until you learn that through the experiences with people.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we spoke about in the previous podcast, is that we tend to build relationships based on needs, and that's not love. Love it gives, it expands. But what's also important in the Course in Miracles teachings around love is love as an idea. So it says God is an idea, we are an idea, love is an idea. But it makes a very powerful distinction in that if something is valuable or something needs to be pursued, it's something that expands by giving. When we have so when we have a physical object or anything physical, if I have ownership of something and then I give it to you, by definition, you now own it and I don't. But what's different about the realm of God or the realm of love is that when you share something, it increases. And so we can even look at God, what we're told through the Course in Miracles is God increased by having more of itself, which is called us, the sonship. So there was no loss to God by expanding and becoming more of itself, except now that it experiences itself through what it has created. Very, very similar to parents having babies and then experiencing parenthood. Although children don't give birth to their own parents, that's a likeness to the physical world. But at a spiritual level, what we're told is that when we learn these ideas of love, of oneness, and of God, that we recognize that the more that we share that and expand that into our community, our friends, I've said it before, your address book is your workbook. Those people in your life, and when you share your way of being, because your way of thinking is congruent to love and unity, the things that the Course teaches us, you transform your life and the lives of the people around you. And so from the Course in Miracles standpoint, it is really important that we take that first step in change of identification away from I am a body to I have a body, but I am spirit or I am love. And the more love that I am, the more that I share that I am, the more that expands. And because the Course in Miracles teaches us that mind is a mind that we share together, that means if I have a loving thought, by reality, you will experience benefits within your own being without knowing where it's coming from. I'm affecting you simply by thinking correctly.
That makes so much sense. Right.
And so we can impact people through our thinking more than we realize, because the world is kind of built upon the idea that you can really only impact people through the body, and we can harm the body or we can heal the body. And what the Course in Miracles says, you can have a larger impact in your life and on your relationships and your level of joy by working at the level of the mind. And so it tells us that the mind was created whole, and it is whole. But then over millions of years, within the mind crept a tiny mad idea, as the Course in Miracles puts it. And the tiny mad idea is, what if I'm not what I am? What if I'm separate from that which created me? And the Course in Miracles says that took millions and millions of years to occur in consciousness. So we can see the state of the world being as it is because we were all literally asleep to our divinity, We're somewhat like robots walking around in the dream of separation that we share. So the mind that we share that believes in separation is what's giving rise to the experience of the physical universe.
And that's why we see so much pain and suffering in the world, because that's what the separation is causing people to harm others, because they think they're separate from them. But we actually we all one. And so whatever you're doing outside, you're actually really doing to yourself unconsciously. So, if we want to heal the world, and I've heard this from many, many people, like teachers, if you want to heal the world, the only person you have to heal is yourself. Because as you step into the world whole, then everybody that you come into contact with gets the opportunity to be whole too.
Yes. And at the deeper level, what the Course in Miracles teaches us is that we are whole. We don't have to.
Exactly. We just don't know it. Yeah.
We forgot. We have simply, and in the Bible, it makes reference to fell asleep. And the Course in Miracles makes reference to this too, and says you are literally dreaming the physical universe. You are asleep to your divinity. You are asleep to your oneness. And so all of the strife and the pain and the suffering that we create either in our lives and then we see collectively happening globally is as a result of false identification.
Yes. And that's why also many teachers, Thich Khan, so many of these beautiful teachers that we've had the privilege to have a walk with us here, they've always said that it's so simple.
Yes.
So the simplicity means you literally have to just see that you're already free, you already have all these things. So when you come out of that deep sleep, you open your eyes, you're just like, oh, I didn't have to grab for anything. Because as when you're young, like I think maybe at the age of 2 years old, the ego is already there, fully formed. And so you think that you have to achieve things on the outside. You have to run after this. You have to push away that. And that's your whole life becomes like that. And so the idea that salvation, if you want to call it that, or enlightenment or whatever it is, or waking up from the dream needs to be hard and you have to struggle for it and you have to work hard for it. The reality is that no, you just have to wake up. And that's the simplicity. But the mind makes up these stories that it has to be somewhere over there. It has to be somewhere out there, somewhere where I can't achieve it.
Right.
And the mind makes up the story.
The mind makes up the story. And the part of the mind that's making up that story is the ego and the personality.
Yes.
So, right. And I've said this before to many people. I said, once you recognize that you have these two voices within your consciousness, and one is a wonderful guide, and it's soft, and it always supports fullness and truth. The other voice is all about fear, defense, guilt, blame, shame. And so as soon as we identify that we have these two different thought systems, we are well on our way to our own awakening, because for many people, they don't even recognize that they have these two different thought systems. And the Course in Miracles is founded on it. And it says that when we are thinking with our higher mind or our whole mind or our God mind, then we are impacting this moment, that we are in the now. And when we are thinking with the lower or the egoic mind, you'll recognize that you're always moving between past and future and past and future. And the Course in Miracles says, the past doesn't exist. The future is a fantasy. All you have is now. And the simplicity is right now you are whole. Right now you don't need to struggle. And it's not to have this lofty term and think, okay, well, yeah, I do need to pay my mortgage. I do need to, work. I need to do, you're doing those things to maintain the physical part of your experience. But that's not where your joy is going to come from. And we all know that, because the ego is endlessly saying more and more and more. We achieve a certain level of anything, whether it's athletic success or financial success or whatever it is, and we achieve it. And then we hear that voice again, no, you need more, you need more, you need more. And that's because at the lower part of the mind, because it's separate from truth, everything it thinks is illusion. Everything is about loss and gain, guilt, and shame.
And I like what you said earlier on about choice, that there's literally these two voices and you get to choose. So I often have clients who come to me for coaching, whatever the situation might be for them. And one of the things that most people don't know is they get to choose, because they have a certain set mindset that their separated little mind, ego mind, has put them on this, on this path, and they've always thought in a certain way. And when you present them, did you know that you have a choice? Did you know that in every moment you can choose a different thought? That old thought that was running your life for the last 10 years that hasn't given you any good results, you can actually just choose not to have that, not to believe that. And so the power to choose is probably the thing that helps us the most to get us free.
Absolutely.
Knowing that you have that power to choose.
Right. And in A Course in Miracles, it tells us that we are the decision maker. It says you're trapped between hearing these two voices. And for some people, hearing the voice in Course in Miracles terms, it's Holy Spirit. When I was a little girl, I used to call it my little voice. It was my soft, my truthful voice. And irrelevant of what we call that voice is when we recognize that we are able to make that choice as a decision maker, we turn our life completely around, and the experience of our life doesn't necessarily change, but how we experience what we're experiencing changes. So even if you're in a car accident, you can now look at it and say, well, I'm here for an experience. I have a choice how I want to go through this experience. I can do it from a place of victimhood, or I can do it through the thing of what can I learn about myself? How can I treat the other people in the accident? Hopefully there's a serious injury. So every experience we have, we see differently when we use the power of choice to say which voice, which thought do I want to lead my life?
Yeah. And every human being, I believe that if we really truly become quiet enough, you're going to hear that voice, because it's been there from the moment before you got here. It's that guiding, very gently, soft guiding voice that's always there. It never leaves you. It never abandons you. It never judges you. It never runs out of forgiveness. It's always there. So that's how people talk about God. Like when they're in a Christian faith, they're all forgiving God, and God is always forgiving. And every day, if you do something, you can just repent and God will forgive. So there's that, there's always you can start wherever you're at. Doesn't matter what your past. You always have the present moment gives you that new opportunity, because that's how God is. God is always there, renewing itself every moment, every day. So you can call it an energy, you can call it God, whatever people decide, because nowadays everybody has their own way of believing in this, but it's there. This little guiding system is always there. It never leaves you, and it will never abandon you. The only thing is, when you're ready to hear it and you start listening for it to guide you, you're going to start to feel that oneness. And then all the things that you were talking about, Moreah, about how we are one with everybody, and you start to see, maybe perhaps I shouldn't have nasty ideas about people or nasty thoughts or do nasty things, because those are the things that affect me too, because we're all one. And we start putting out more joy, more love, more compassion. And like you also said, those things start to grow in your life, because the more you share truth, the more it will grow. So if you're feeling, listeners out there, if you're feeling a little bit stuck in your life, or if you're feeling like, there's a lot of this talk, but how do I put it into my life? Can you perhaps give us listeners a few tips of what they can actually do?
Well, one of the most important things that I think will help our listeners is, let's talk about the subject of forgiveness, and let's do it from the perspective that what the Course says. Mm-hmm. So I want you to think about something, Deb. When you have a dream at night, do you ever remember your dream?
Sometimes.
Okay, so if you can even recall even one of the times that you had a dream, while you were having the dream, you have to recognize, because it's yourself is dreaming. So you peopled the dream. You put all the objects in the dream. If you dreamt you had a car accident, you were the car, you were the environment, you were everything within that
Correct.
Dream.
Correct.
And so then you say, well, okay, my mind has the ability to project out a whole event, a whole movie, a whole story. And then when you wake up in the morning, you don't usually sit there and then think about who you need to call because you're in a car accident. You just go, bloop, it was a dream. I can forget about it. Well, the Course in Miracles says that what we do from the egoic structure, what we do from the separated mind, that is the dream. It doesn't exist. Therefore, there's nothing to forgive, because what you did, you weren't even doing it in reality. You were hallucinating. We are literally, like I said, like little robots walking around, killing each other, harming each other, stealing from each other, because we're completely asleep. And the part of the mind that is experiencing this is projecting the physical world as it is.
Wonderful. So now, how if people are listening to this and they are in pain because somebody did something to them, because they believe that person or thing did something to them, how do we get through to them saying, like, yes, you are experiencing pain, but it's not really because of the other person? How would you recommend they work through that? Because I get it. I totally get it. But there are some people out there who is stuck in the pain, and they like, I don't want to forgive that person because he left me. He didn't leave me any money. She took my kids away from me. I hate her. These are all part of the dream, right?
It's all part of the dream. But when you say them, which them are we talking about? If I could come through this, if I was in the room with you and I slapped you across the face, I still did nothing to you. I struck your body, but you're not your body.
Ah, I gotcha.
I did nothing.
So this is the problem. So there are these people, I got it. The problem is that we think we are the body. And so when somebody does something to the body, we just hate those people because we think they did it to us, but we are not the body. The body's having an experience of somebody slapping it. And our ability to, I guess, get through that is literally about our perception.
Absolutely. And our perception, from the perceptual standpoint, we are the body. From knowledge, from the perspective of knowledge, we are spirit.
We are not.
We cannot be harmed. We cannot.
So that's the biggest, okay, I got it. So that's the biggest problem that we are experiencing when we get stuck, is thinking that we are the body when we're not the body.
It's body identification. And if we go to, and we look at Christianity,
that's so big. That's so big, Moreah. What you just said now, I could feel this huge expansion in the energy. It's like, we can relax, because all the hate and all the stuff that's going on in the world is all to do with they did something to me and my body and my life and my this. And we are not the body. Oh my God, what a relief that is.
Yes. And so if we look at, because, the Course in Miracles uses Christian terms and terminology, and we look at the example of the crucifixion and the resurrection. This was a demonstration, the Course in Miracles tells us. It says, even for you to hang me on a cross and nail me to the cross, it didn't matter, because I wasn't body identified. You did nothing to me.
Because nobody can do anything to you as spirit.
You cannot. You cannot. And so when the Course in Miracles, we go back to nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. This is what it's really speaking to. And when it comes to forgiveness, it's saying, there's nothing to forgive, because no one can really do anything to me.
That could be a big shock for people, who never thought past that they are a body. Like, it can be very shocking, but at the same time, it can also be very freeing, because all the stuff, that's what Moreah was saying, forgiveness is not really necessary, because all the stuff that we think we need to forgive is all based in the lie, in the belief that you are a body.
Yes. And
so once you get yourself over that I am not the body, I'm having an experience of the body, and nobody can touch me, nobody can hurt me, then we can actually also get ourselves out of pain and suffering. And we literally can save ourselves when we have this simple understanding of, I am not the body. I am not a body. I have a body.
Yes, and that's a very big distinction, and we made reference to that before. You have a car. You're not your car, although when people are doing road rage, you think that they're the cars. But it's true that to have a body is a very different experience than to identify as spirit that has the experience and the joys that you can have from the experience of the body. There's no guilt to be associated with it. And no shame to be associated with it. It's simply, as the Course in Miracles says, it's a learning tool for you so that you can awaken to your identity as spirit.
Wow. It's so amazing. I hope our listeners can really, you need to perhaps listen to this talk again and again, because there are many concepts that could be big, that the little ego mind, it'll just go over your head. But I would recommend you listen to it again and again until you get, there's so many beautiful bits here, so many beautiful bits. I want to just come back to a little bit with the God as an idea. Can you tell us, the listeners, a little bit what that entails through the course?
Well, from the Course in Miracles perspective, God and love are interchangeable. So to say God is love and like I said, love isn't an emotion. Love is a state of being or a light. And the Course in Miracles says your ability to think, the light that is your mind is God. So you're inseparable from it, because for you to even experience existence, you need God. And so from the Course in Miracles perspective, as God as an idea, is that you can't assail an idea. If you don't want something to grow, you don't support it. So if you give me an idea that I think is false and I don't support it, I didn't increase it. But because the way of the universe of love, truth, knowledge is all expansive, it's unending. And so from the perspective of the Course in Miracle, to even ponder God as an idea, I mean, yeah, it's mind-blowing, just that, God as an idea. Well, there's nothing about an idea that ever stops. I mean, once you have an idea, it's forever a part of you. And so what the Course in Miracles says, true ideas benefit us all. Projection, perception, create hell for us individually.
And also create separation.
And the separation. So God is the idea of wholeness.
Wow, that's so beautiful. So beautiful. When I was a kid, I was raised in a Christian family, and I remember there was a scripture in the Bible that I just never forgot. I was very young when I heard this. Eye has not seen and ear has not heard the breadth and the depth of God. I have never forgotten that. And when you talked just now about love and God, that's what came into my being again. It's like you can't imagine how big it is. It doesn't have a beginning. It doesn't have an end. It's ever expanding. It's a feeling of expansiveness that your little mind can't fathom it. It just blows up. Yeah. And that's so beautiful. So beautiful. So whenever we're feeling, listeners out there, when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're feeling stuck, I would say go back to, what is it that you're stuck on with forgiving? Because if you can understand that there's nothing to forgive, really, if you understand that you're not the body and that all experiences come to teach you something about yourself, and then you can really just, when you switch your mind that I am not the body, but I am having experience of the body, and that bring into yourself the breadth and the depth of God or consciousness, whatever it is that you believe in, because people have interpreted this energy as many things, and it doesn't matter how you interpret it. It's just that you access it and that you become one with it. Because in this becoming of oneness with it, we become one with everything around us. And then there's love and there's peace and there's joy. And that seems to, and that when I was growing up and watching so many of the teachers that we've been so privileged to have working with us here, that's what I actually saw. I saw an expanse of love, and I saw in their physical being and in their surroundings. You know, I think maybe 20 years ago, I was very privileged. I was in India, and one of my teachers, I never met him before. First time I went to see him, to do a retreat there. And there was like maybe 1,000 people in the room, and he was right in the front of the room. And I could feel the love that was just emanating from his body. And I was like, wow, that's love.
Absolutely. And it's such a distinct presence. And you know, and it's not only by being around ascended masters or very enlightened people. The feeling you get when you hold a newborn baby. I mean, it's instant. You feel yourself expand. You feel this totality.
Exactly. And you have that. So once you understand what is keeping you separate from that, and so we have all our different journeys. You can do it through yoga, meditation, whatever it is that you decide to do to come back to the self. In my experience, it was like, so now I can see the holy experience with every person. So that expanded experience that I first came across is now in my daily life. Right. But that signature, when I was in the presence of that person, allowed me to connect with that within myself. So I was able to create that in my life. And that's the privilege of having the teachers. And so, because I actually said it yesterday to somebody, I was talking to a person yesterday, and I was saying to him that when I was younger, I thought I loved this and this and this, and many things supposedly broke my heart and blah, blah, blah. But as I did the journey within, I recognized nobody did anything to me because nobody can. And that was all the projection from the physical body side. And when I actually let all that go, I finally came to the point in my life where I can say, I love you and I love you, and it's all the same. And I love the flower and I love the bees and I love water, and it's all the same. There was no more, oh, I love this one so much and I don't like this one. It's like when you understand, when you come to that love within yourself, then it allows you to see the holiness of everything else. So every relationship, everything, every person that comes into your life, and I always thought when I was younger, I thought that people on the outside have to change so that I could have that. No, I had to wake up from the illusion of separation. And then you have that experience of love with everything, because you are love.
And that's exactly right. Because when you are experiencing the world, because the Course in Miracles teaches us, it says the problem isn't in the world.
Yes.
The problem is in your thinking.
Oh, but it's so convincing, Moreah.
It is.
It's like but my ego is right. I had to be right. They hurt me, and I'm never going to talk to them again. It's like, it's so convincing that it's the other people.
And one of my favorite lines from the Course, do you want to be right or do you want peace?
Like people come and they say, well, I want peace, but I don't want to forgive him.
And you can't have both. You can't have both. No, absolutely.
Oh my God.
But I think it's so important to say again, and I said it, and if our listeners can let this land, you can't be separated from God. The fact that you are listening and you have the ability to even think, the light of that is your mind is God. So there's nothing you need to do to go and get it or attain it or find it. You can sit in the now and just accept it. Accept that it is already done for you.
Yeah, and we've heard this story also from many people, like, for example, Eckhart Tolle, and how he expressed when he got his vision or whatever it is that he got on the bench. He was without money, he was living on the street, and it just landed in him because there was nowhere to go for the mind and the ego.
Absolutely.
When the mind and the ego just shut up, he was able to see himself as he is. And so hopefully out there, if there's anybody struggling today, find your stillness, find inside of yourself, because you have it all. Everything that you ever wanted. I've heard this many times before where people say, oh, everything you're looking for is inside yourself. It's just words until you have an experience. You know? So when you have the experience, it's like you almost said landed. It has to land in your body. It has to land in yourself, and then you can come from that place. But if you're struggling and if you're still having problems with forgiveness and so on, understand that it's just your projection, it's the separation, and it's when you wake up to truly who you are, then none of these things are even gonna bother you ever. Nothing that happened in the past, none of the fears that come from the future, because if you stay in the present moment and you wake up to your true nature, which is love, which is God, then everything is amazing.
Everything is as it needs to be.
Exactly. Good. Moreah, it's always, I could talk forever, but we will cut that here. And remember what I said, listeners, we have a 5-part series of this. So this is the first one. And next week we'll do the second one with Moreah again. It gets me always so expanded. There's so much love. I appreciate your time so much. I appreciate that you're sharing with us, our listeners, all the wisdom that you have that comes from the Course, and how we can use it to liberate ourselves from this deep sleep that we're in. So until next time, Moreah, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day. Blessings.
You too.